This video is brought to you by our Patreon donors. More on that later.
Infestations often feel so deadly because they spawn in unexpected places at unexpected times. Today we'll try to shed some light on infestations, including how they work, how to prevent them, and how to fight them. Infestations only occurs if an overhead mountain roof is located at least 30 tiles away from any colony structures. You can see what kind of roofs are where with the roof overlay. In addition, the temperature must be no lower than negative 17 degrees Celsius, or 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit, for infestations to spawn. If you're willing to delve into the depths of dev mode, there is a very useful tool to draw infestation chances. It can be useful if you're trying to experiment with how they work. If both of these factors are true, you are able to receive infestations under that overhead roof tile. The infestation can spread around the overhead tile if there isn't enough space under it to fit all the hives, so watch out for that. But what if there's multiple overhead mountain tiles to choose from? Well, the game has a few factors that affect the chance a tile is affected by an infestation. Any temperature below negative 8 degrees Celsius, or 17.6 degrees Fahrenheit, will reduce the chance of that tile being affected. It gradually increases until reaching 0% at negative 17 degrees Celsius. Light will also reduce the chance but never negate it. To light up your living quarters and keep the cave far away from your colony very dark to keep yourself somewhat safe. Despite all your efforts, insects manage to spawn in regardless. Bummer. Well, now we have to clean this problem sooner than later. Infestations are the most punishing event in the game, as it can extremely quickly scale out of control after just a few days. Hives will reproduce up to 30 hives at a constant rate depending on difficulty, making a lonely hive quickly scale to a colony-ending threat in only a quadrum. Keep in mind, this does not apply to hives generated at the start of the game, but does apply to ancient dangers. Besides, reproducing hives will also emit heat up to 38 degrees Celsius, small glow pods, insect jelly, and worst of all, insects. The latter will roam around the hive, attacking for any hostile that comes too close. They will also mine any walls that may stop their expansion. If any insect is hurt by a human, they will all charge at the nearest hostile. Until they no longer detect any hostiles in the area, they will return to defend their hives. What insects are there even? Well, for a quick summary, we have the Mega Scarab, are very small creatures dealing low damage and having low health. Don't let that fool you, however, as they can quickly slow down a pawn enough to prevent retreat. The Spillipede is next. It's a massive step up from the Mega Scarab, being 3 times the hit points and dealing a lot more damage. They are slightly slower than their smaller cousins and can be a significant threat to an unprepared colonist. The Mega Spider is the last and perhaps the most dangerous beast on this list. It has twice the hit points of the Spillipede and deals even more damage. Not much to say about this one. It can easily outpower pawns in a melee without proper equipment. All insects also follow a few rules. They are all melee with no exception and are immune to hypothermia, instead getting slower and slower until passing out, but never dying. Now that we know who we are fighting, let's try avoiding the fight altogether. The obvious way of not running into any insects is to not disturb them, and putting a wall under any overhead mountain that is present will prevent any infestation from happening. If you truly need to have an overhead mountain area mined out, you can freeze it to below 17 degrees Celsius or 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit, which will stop all spawn. Keep in mind, this strategy is not consistent, as solar flares and heat waves can ruin your day quickly. In the event that you can't freeze or wall a tile, you can simply put a light and keep it as cold as possible, while keeping another cave somewhere else dark and warm. Insects will most likely choose that one over the cold and lit up cave, giving you time to prepare. Insects can also spawn from deep drilling, but they will not spawn in hives, making them comparable to a small tribal raid. You either messed up or crave insect blood, and now there's insects in your base or around your base. The first thing to do is not to panic. Pull everyone out of the infested rooms and find a choke point. Ideally, it would be something like similar to what you see on screen, with 3 melee pawns on one side of a 1-tile big choke point. This means insects will only be able to fight 1 at a time in a versus 3 situation, giving you an insane efficiency. Giving any pain-numbing drugs or implants to your melee pawns is a good idea, as going down means disaster for the juicy range pawn behind them. Using fire is not recommended, as living beings on fire have a tendency to clip through each other while running around, letting some bugs go behind your range pawns. A more effective crowd control tool are grenades, as they obliterate bugs like nothing else, at the cost of destroying some of the bodies. Does all of that sound like a lot of work to you? Well, worry not. There's a much easier way of defending against infestations with a bit of setup. We're going to want to make a bait cave, where it's dark and warm. This means most infestations will be pulled toward that cave. It's important to make the walls a few tiles thick and make sure everything is roofed. From there, you can either have a few dozen heaters or a bunch of wood furniture to light on fire. The heat will literally cook the bugs alive. Keep in mind, they will make a run for any exit or walls to try to escape the heat, but you can kill an infinite amount of bugs relatively cheaply when they are all dead from the heat. Deconstruct the walls leading to the outside, venting all the heat away. This lets you recover more bodies, as you can now send pawns to fight the fire. Keep in mind, this tactic can fail to work, as infestations still have a small chance to spawn in your real base, so keep your melee pawns well equipped. Why kill them if they can be useful alive? Insects won't bother you if you don't bother them. They can be an excellent shield from raiders, as they will fight each other. Keep in mind that insects will turn against you after every raid, and you will need to hide for long enough or clean them out after. Now for the juicy DLC content. Probably need a better translation. Yeah. Royalty doesn't offer much in terms of insect content. Pain stoppers and sightcasters can work wonders against bugs though, so keep that in mind. Ideology doesn't have any way of making bugs less annoying, but it can increase the reward of slaughtering them by choosing the tunneler meat, which turns insect meat from a debuff to a buff. Biotech's mechs are still as strong as ever, and especially against insects. Tunnelers can tank for a very long time, while any mechs that deal area damage can crush insects and choke points, like centipedes or diabolus. However, running those heavy mechs will inevitably attract more bugs. Insects not only get a small lasting buff in pollution, but they also make spawn every time a Wastepack is destroyed. Wastepacked infestations spawn large amounts of cocoons that, once triggered, will spawn insects. The trick to defeating them is to not fight them at all, as the bugs aren't hostile, but berserk. They will attack the wildlife and raiders alike. Not only will you get rid of the insects, but you get a free hunting crew. You may need to clean up a few stragglers if the infestation is particularly large. Anomalies' new toys can be quite good, as the serums can boost the combat effectiveness of your melee fighters by a lot. We did mention not to use fires before, but the incinerator can deal a lot of damage in a large area, and Hellcat rifles can help your range pawns get out of trouble if things go south. A Nokiosphere can deal quite well with an infestation, dealing large amounts of damage to many insects. It is, however, not a good tool to fully clear them, as it deals poorly with hordes and may die or run out of time. You've made it this far, and you're still alive. You may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. You have defeated one foe, but there are many more on the rim. So make sure to check out this video before it's too late. I'd like to thank everybody that makes videos like this possible. We couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to help us make more videos, consider donating $1 a month to us on Patreon. You'll get early access to these videos and get to view them ad-free. Not to mention, you get your name in the credits right here with all these people. Woohoo!